morning, everyone. May the Lord richly bless you. Thank you so much for tuning in to us live right now. As you can see there on the bottom, I have my subject for today, and I want to speak about that. Does Genesis 4:1 say Adam was Cain's father? This is something that comes up quite frequently when you're sharing on the doctrine of the serpent seed. And people will say, wait a minute, Genesis 4:1 says that Adam knew Eve, she conceived and bare a son and called him Cain. So people say, oh, the book was open there for a second, you had me, but we're going to close it because Scripture directly says that Adam was Cain's father. But does it really say that? I'm going to argue today that it doesn't, and I'm going to show you directly from the context of Genesis chapter 4. Before we do that, I have a few things I want to introduce. Brother Mukaga, Brother Isal, God bless you. Thank you for listening in. Say hi to us if you're listening in now. Please share this video. If you're watching, share it with your friends. Pass the word on. So I think this is this is coming up all right. Couple different books that I have just released. They're on the website, jasondemars.com. If you click on resources, you can order them there. Unfortunately, if you're listening from anywhere but the United States, Canada, or Europe, so if you're listening from Africa or India or Pakistan, you will not be able to receive these. You can order them, but you won't be able to receive them because of COVID-19. Shipping is still closed. So this is first one I'm telling you about, the days of the Son of Man, looking at the revealing of the Son of Man in the last days. And the next one, book that I wrote just a little while ago, Is Hell Eternal? And so you can order a copy. All these books are free. Shipping is free as well. We're just doing it by faith. This is a book that I've just recently put in print. It's taken the last 6 or 7 years of the book, the PTM Contender, that I've written on a monthly basis, where I take 2 or 3 topics. I discontinued that, and I put that now in a book form. You can see it's pretty thick. It's I think 600 and... how many pages is it exactly? 619 pages. So this also, you can order a copy, and I will ship it to you completely free. And God bless you. If you would like a copy, be more than happy to get that out to you. Once again, if you're listening in, please share this video. Help spread the word about our show here Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. If you have any questions or prayer requests or comments, please share them with us either on any social media network, or better yet, you can contact us through our website, jasondemars.com, by email, demjas@gmail.com, and you can call or text 612-293-6846. With that said, let's get into our topic. First verse we want to read is Genesis 4, verse 1. And Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived and bare Cain, and said, I have gotten a man from the Lord. So again, this is the verse that people will take and say, Brother Jason, your teaching was fine, but Genesis 4:1 says that Adam was the father of Cain. So before we continue, I want to give a little bit of a lesson in Hebrew. So in the English language, we have past, present, and future tense. So I went to the store. Past tense. Present tense, I am going to the store. Future tense, I will go to the store. But Hebrew does not have that. In the Hebrew language, there is perfect and imperfect verb tenses. So perfect means a completed action. Imperfect means an action in process. In the Hebrew language, as you see above here, you see in the English language, in the Bible, you see the different punctuation points. You see a comma, a period, and so forth. So in the Hebrew text, if you read it, it has none of these. There's no punctuations. And so the way we get punctuations in English is based on the verbs and nouns in the Hebrew language, in particular the verbs. So in in the Hebrew, here we have two different tenses of verbs in this sentence. So if you look below there, at the bottom it says, and Adam had known his wife. That is a perfect tense. Adam had known. It's a completed action. So Adam had known his wife, period. And she was conceiving and she was bearing Cain. That's an imperfect tense. Both conception and bearing and carrying Cain is imperfect tense. So Adam had known his wife, completed action. She was conceiving, she was bearing Cain, incomplete action. You say, well, that doesn't matter. It makes no difference. Well, I want to look at this. This type of verse and this type of language is brought up again in Genesis 4:17. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bare Enoch, and he builded a city and called the name of the city after the name of his son Enoch. So here we have imperfect tense. Both of them are the imperfect tense. So the action is connected. Cain was knowing his wife, and she was conceiving and was bearing Enoch. So Cain knew his wife, she conceived, and she bore him. All these action words, verbs, are connected. They're all the same tense, or their action is connected together. Now that's one. I want to give you another example. Genesis 4:25 says, and Adam knew his wife again, and she bare a son and called his name Seth. So Adam was knowing his wife again, and she was bearing a son. So both of them are imperfect actions. They're incomplete actions. They're actions in progress. Both of them are connected together. So for Cain, knowing his wife was connected to her conceiving and her bearing the son Enoch. Adam, in this instance, knowing his wife, is connected to the bearing of Seth. Both are imperfect verb tenses. But Genesis 4:1 is two different tenses. So let's look at this. Once again, and Adam had known his wife, period, end of sentence. This action is complete. And she was conceiving and she was bearing Cain. The two verbs have two different tenses and are therefore separate sentences and distinct acts. If you're watching this for the first time, it might be a confusion for you regarding the doctrine of serpent seed. But I just want to clarify this. We are talking and we're bearing record of the fact that in Genesis chapter 3, that the trees in the garden were not literal trees, the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. They're not literal trees, but they were figurative trees. That Adam and Eve ate of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Look at that word, the tree of knowledge, in Genesis 4:1, to know his wife. This action is connected together. In Proverbs 30:20, it says, such is the way of an adulterous woman. She eateth and wipeth her mouth and saith, I have done no wrong. The act of adultery is connected to the act of eating. So, the original sin was Eve believing the word of Satan, unbelief in what Jehovah God has spoken, which led to the act of adultery. Paul says that's what it was in 2 Corinthians chapter 11. He likens the act of Eve being beguiled to the serpent to to the bride being engaged to Christ, and he says that you would be beguiled in the same way that Eve was beguiled, which was what? The act of adultery. Paul was concerned that the church would commit adultery with another Jesus. What did the woman do? She had a relationship with the serpent. The serpent was not a snake. The word nakash does not mean snake. It speaks of something different based on the context that you have through Scripture. It's interpreted in Hebrew in different ways. Sometimes it means hippopotamus. Sometimes it means adultery. Sometimes it means brass chains. The word nakash is translated differently. If we look at this verse, we understand in Genesis 3:15 that the serpent was cursed to be put on his belly. He wasn't originally on his belly, he was cursed to be put on his belly. He actually originally walked upright on 2 feet, and he also had the power to speak and the power to reason. He was an animal that was built so close to man that he could mate with man and produce, that the serpent could mate with the woman and produce seed. In Genesis 3:16 it says, thy seed, speaking to the serpent, God says, your seed shall have enmity with the woman's seed. Your offspring shall have enmity with the woman's offspring. So this is a prophecy about Jesus coming. Who did Jesus have problems with? The Pharisees. He didn't have problems with snakes. So who is the offspring of the serpent? It's people in the human race. People in the human race. And so when we look at Genesis 4:1, Cain, the conception of Cain is separate from the act of Adam knowing his wife. And so I just got something that said someone can't hear me. It shows here that my sound is on. Make sure that in the bottom right hand corner, if you're on Facebook, the sound is on there. Brother Elijah, God bless you. So the act, Genesis 4:1, will bring that up again. The act of Adam knowing his wife was a completed action. Adam had known his wife. That's a perfect tense, completed action. And she was conceiving and she was bearing Cain. It's an incomplete action, so it's 2 verbs have 2 different senses, therefore tenses, and are therefore separate sentences and distinct acts. Genesis 4:1 does not disprove that serpent seed is a correct doctrine. It in fact establishes that fact that Cain's conception and bearing is a distinct act from Adam knowing his wife. If you have any questions, prayer requests, or testimonies, please send them our way. You can see our contact information in the bottom corner. And if you're listening to this podcast, you can reach us at jasondemars.com, and the books that I was speaking about, the End Time Message Handbook, Is Hell Eternal, and The Days of the Son of Man, all can be ordered on our resources page there. May the Lord richly bless you.